Okay.
Sunny was one of our founding members. She was our secretary for like 30 years. She passed away in 2018.
Okay.
And so the community just remembers her in different places and everything like that. But she meant a lot to us.
All right. Hello, everyone. I want to thank all of you for coming from far and wide to celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth II. I'm sorry, wrong eulogy. All right. Sorry, Majesty. But since I've already mentioned Queen Elizabeth, we can draw from something she famously said years ago. Grief was the price that we pay for love. And to paraphrase Prince William, all the sadness that we feel is a testament to the love that we felt for our extraordinary friend, Kay Ann Rickertsen. Whew. As Rachel and I were just talking about, or was it Nancy? It was one of the two. Memorials are always such a duality of feelings. On the one hand, it is great to once again see so many friends and family from years gone by and from, in some cases, states very, very far away. But on the other hand, the reason sucks so damn much. How do you even begin to summarize a life such as Anne's? The mind boggles. Anne came into this world as Kathleen Ann Rickertsen. Worth noting, the middle name Anne had no E. She spent her childhood being known as Kathy. She spent her early adulthood being known as Rickerts. And if someone has another tissue they can bring up, that'd be awesome. Gracias. Thank you. I came unprepared. The one thing I knew I would need. But when she came across Anne Sexton's poetry, it resonated with her so much that she chose to put the E at the end of her middle name as a tribute to Anne Sexton. From that moment forward, she became Kay Ann with an E Rickertsen. It was the name she chose for herself, and it fit her perfectly. Anne Sexton once wrote, "Poetry led me by the hand out of madness." And I don't think I get any argument from our own Anne that that statement was true for her as well. As Megan so beautifully wrote in Anne's obit, Anne lived poetry and breathed it back into the world. Tissue break number 2. For those of you counting at home and updating your Excel spreadsheet. Life can be challenging for the best of us, but being a bald, butch lesbian back in Anne's young adulthood was all the more so. Yet she was brave enough to have lived her authentic life, even when it was hard, even when her own parents, who eventually embraced it, and the Nebraska community struggled with who she was. When Anne was finally coming out, even the LGBT community back then was very down on Butch Dykes. It was really not okay. But she put on a suit and went out to the dyke bars and just fucking owned it. Yeah. And because she was authentically herself, she could meet anyone, anywhere, and be completely present with them, wherever they were. Relative, friend, customer at Rainbow Grocery, happy, sad, mad, or glad, wherever you were at in that moment, Anne was present in that exact moment with you. It was her superpower. It was her very existence. It was the poetry of her life. Back in 2006, on one of our many trips to Las Vegas, she and I got on the elevator on the 25th floor of the Luxor Hotel, and there was a couple, a straight man and woman, who were already there. They immediately had a very visual and rather non-joyous reaction to the bald butch lesbian in a dark, double-breasted gabardine suit who unexpectedly appeared in their space. But by the time we hit the lobby, they were our new best friends. Again, it was her superpower. By being authentically herself, it gave everyone she met the same opportunity and the same freedom to be authentically themselves. Of course, not all encounters ended so well, which is one of the reasons that years prior she had written the poem, She Wears Cufflinks. Way back in 1998, Anne had mentioned to me that she had been annoyed at only having 45 minutes to get ready to go out earlier in the week. I looked at her and I asked her, how long does it usually take you to get ready to go out? And she said, oh, at least 2 hours. And I was like, 2 hours? She said, yes, actually, I have a poem that speaks to the process of getting ready. And that's when she showed me She Wears Cufflinks. The poem blew me away. I said, well, we should do a documentary on this. I should interview you about the process and your poetry and the process of writing poetry and your love of suits, and then we could fictionalize the poem. I don't think I have to tell anyone here that I did not have to do one bit of arm twisting to get her to agree to this. That's how our crackpot project, as she liked to put it, She Wears Cufflinks, the documentary, began. I've got to give a huge shout out and thanks to Frameline for launching our festival tour and giving us one of the best nights of our life at the inaugural screening at the festival in 2002. When we got into the Palm Springs Festival of Short Films, we road tripped down to see it, and it was very well received. Upon leaving the screening, a young baby dyke came running up to us. She asked Anne if we had a copy on VHS that she could buy. Quite frankly, we would have given it to her. And she said that this film would change her friend's life, that her friend was just like Anne, but her friend was really struggling. We didn't have any copies with us, but we stood and we talked with her for quite a while. And as we were saying our goodbyes, she excitedly said she was going to go home and tell her friend all about it. Later that night, Anne was kicking herself for not having the thought in that moment to give that woman, to give that young baby Dyke, to get her address so that we could mail her a copy. But the impact of knowing that Anne, just by being Anne, by telling her own story, could make such a difference. And that always stayed with both of us. As we all know, and this was a powerful in-person reminder that visibility absolutely fucking matters. I hope the youngsters coming up today know that they stand on Anne's brave shoulders, as we stood on the shoulders of those incredibly brave LGBTQ+ folks who came before us. This is tissue break number 3. Tissue break number 3. Hey, that's better. So I've been thinking about what Anne might want to say to us now that she's crossed over that rainbow bridge, in between moments of cornering the spirit of Judy Garland, of course. I read somewhere that life is too short to leave the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. I think Anne would want to leave us with that thought, that she would want to remind us all that we are going to die is certain. It's the when we don't know. So don't be foolish, but retire when you can. Use that 401k. Tell the person that you love them. Take the trip you always wanted to take. Buy that lamp that you thought was just a little too expensive. As Maude says to Harold in the movie Harold and Maude, L-I-V-E, live. Otherwise, you got nothing to talk about in the locker room. Megan is going to be coming up and reading some poetry. And we're going to open up the stage to anyone who would like to come up and say a few words. But quickly, I would like to thank El Rio. I would like to thank the Rainbow Grocery family. I would like to thank Dykes on Bikes for their tribute processional ride. I would like to thank Denise for organizing and wrangling this whole day. Without her, none of this happens. I'd like to thank Jules for the beautiful altars that you see, to Anne's brother John for riding his motorcycle all the way the hell out from South Dakota, and niece Cassie for flying out from Utah. I'd like to thank all the people from out of town and all the people from in town who are here today, and especially also to Megan, who will be reading Anne's poetry throughout the day that you all will be enjoying. Thank you all. And super quickly, I just want to mention that up over there on the table, there are art books for people to sign and leave messages to Anne and tributes. Please take your turn, go up. There are pens and memorial cards for you to take as well that Denise made. Please take those, and now I give you Megan.
Hi everyone. It's amazing to see all these people that Anne loved so much and who gave her so much love. And I'm so grateful for the 22 years I wrote poems with Anne, especially because she gave me words I can say today when I don't have any words of my own. So I'm going to share some of her poems today from her little red book. If we did calculations on paper, the list fiasco. Demons dig a trench between my shoulder blades, a cage with one side gone missing. Shovels full, if. Each thud how a thing might not swing toward disaster. If, for instance, all things weighed exactly 11 pounds. They say suspicion comes as twin sisters, two sirens, fair and singing sweet doubt. Honeyed temptresses push waves through ditches they breed. The water does not move. If I could erase two memories, crack one croquet ball against another, what fills loss? Almost every little thing. Take an eclipse. Both moon and sun disappear. It is not a transformation. If fear were not possible, if the risk is, in fact, to wait. The bottom of the pail is slop and rust. This makes me tired. Then geraniums burst red with giggles, like the smell of water hitting dirt. If I take your coat off. Autumn knits yellow corn stalks into a great wool blanket. Curl into it. Sink. You do whatever thing you like that takes the edge off. If, then, desire makes now vanish. When my last breath won't come, I will want it. Surely death laughs. But glass is a liquid. Faith is not a test. Nothing cannot be. If love isn't blind. Those give these in small doses because they're potent and powerful. I'm going to read the second one and then open it up. This is an ode to motorcycling. I should be dead in a ditch somewhere just outside of Vacaville near Leisure Town Road. Self-portrait. Good Christ. I myself, rear end, fish-tailed, dead on into Lady Luck. Straight shot. Bullseye. Why me, why now? Oddly enough, same said, lady here, handed over cat whiskers, needles and thread, Dykes. Hat trick. Our Lady, cold-cocked. Death traps, one-eyed Jack's wild poker face. Ante up. Mike could have blindsided Daddy-O. Not so. Order up. Umbrella drinks. Something. Anything. This here lovely gal, Asphalta. The cat's meow. Amen.
So I am John. When they put this together, I knew I had to come out here. I've had a chance to meet some of her family from out here, but not many of you, and I knew I just needed to come out here. Anne was an important part of my life. We were very close. She got me into motorcycles. She was my big brother. We'd wrestle on the living room floor, and Dad tell us to go outside and do that. So I remember one summer we irrigated together by ourselves and had such good times with her. And I just knew it was important that I could come out here and appreciate, this is just, it's overwhelming. I know she had such good friends out here, and it's just unreal to see all this here. And I so much appreciate it. And it was very, very meaningful for me to ride out here to do this. And just thank you so much. It's tough. It's hard for all of us to get through this, but as we talk about, she was such a joyous person. And as she commented, that's actually, she was always, when you were with her, the focus was, us together. I mean, that's what my other daughter commented about. She didn't get to see her much, but when she did, she was present. She was there and gave her full attention to you. And that's just how Anne was. You're just a great and wonderful person. And like I said, it's just so wonderful for me to look out and see all these faces and all the people that loved her. So thank you.
Well, I am J. Ann Craig, and we go back a long time. When John was about 8 years old, and I was in high school going into college, and Kay Ann was in high school. And we didn't even know what was going on, but we knew we had to be together. And we just were friends, and we were like finding the way to get to our emotions through religion, through friendship, through family, and we went there together. And the last thing that I wrote to Kay Ann was, we need to set up a time to talk. And we didn't. So we all have regrets, but at my age, it's like I have to lecture myself and say, just no regrets. No regrets. Just what is it that happened? What is it the love? What is it the joy? And so it's a real lesson, to be here and to see the love that Kay Ann participated in, generated, received, and gave, and the poetry and the words. And as I told my friends and my family, I was like, I'm going to the memorial service of one of my oldest friends who spent her whole life working in a grocery store, her whole adult life. And underneath all of that is this love and life that can never be summarized by some kind of job description. It is who she was. And I'm just so grateful to have known her. And my claim to fame with Kay Ann was that when she was first writing poetry, she would say, well, if you want to read this, you can. So I'm familiar, I take it. And I said, the one thing I want to tell you, this is good, first. Second, write on acid-free paper. Because this belongs for the generations. This belongs for the generations. And the word that I'm receiving from Kay Ann at this point is like, write your damn poetry. Write your damn poetry. So whatever your poetry is in this life, whether it's words or a touch or a gift, a creation, write your damn poetry. It's time. Don't let it go by. And that's my message for her and my message to you. Thank you. It was such a gift to know her and such a gift to be here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Brown. I'm the president of the San Francisco Dykes on Bikes, Germany, past president. It was our honor today to provide a processional for Ann. We all knew Ann as Helmet Ann or Helmet Truck Ann because for decades, her gift to this community was organizing our helmet truck in the parade. And I don't know of any other pride where if you're riding without a helmet, it's in a truck as opposed to bungeed awkwardly onto your motorcycle. It's a true gift that she gave everybody. And so leading up to Pride, we're all working hard every Wednesday night, and we're meeting in the back room of the Eagle under a disco ball, because that's very conducive for meetings. And she would come, and it would be her annual meeting. She would come, and she would confirm that she had connected with Veritable Vegetables, and they have our box, and the truck is ready, and that it was all going to go smoothly. And it always went smoothly. She made it happen. And at the end of the ride, everybody who had given their helmets to Helmet Ann and her small crew of volunteers would go pick them up, and she would stay in that truck for hours handing out helmets. Many of us would go inside and we'd have lunch and we'd take a break. Helmet Ann stayed with that truck, and she greeted everybody with a smile and made sure everybody had a good time. And it was a gift. And she did that for decades for this community. And we talk about generations, and we talk about standing on each other's shoulders. We stood on her shoulders. So I'd like to thank Ann for what she gave to this community and this club.
I pretty much wrote a lot of that stuff down for Anne, what Kate just said, because it is truly a gift. If you've ever been to the parade or ridden in the parade or anything like that, to have somebody who shows up year after year and dedicate their time, their energy to providing a service to this community. It was a true gift from the heart with Anne. I remember the first time I was kind of helping organize the parade, and we kept getting closer and closer to the date, and I was like talking to Sunny, it's like, where's the helmet truck? What's going on with the helmet truck? She goes, don't worry, Anne's got it covered. Where's the helmet? Next meeting, where's the helmet truck? What's going on? How's it? And so finally that meeting, like right before, Anne comes walking in, big smile, overalls, you know, and she goes, got the truck, got the boxes, I'll be there, what time, but you know, everything's done. And that's how it went for the 16 years that I was involved with the Dykes on Bikes and organizing the parade every year.
And before that.
Yeah, and way before that. Anne was there. And I am truly blessed to have those precious days with her. Thank you all.
Anne wrote many forms of poetry. One of them that she did over the years was acrostics for people she loved. So she would write their name down the column of the poem and then write a poem for them, which is just such a gift. And this is one she wrote with her own name. Kneeling, alone, no lock on her door. It is late, night. 3 candles burn in the corner, and near there, a nun smiles with ecstasy as she unwraps a secret present. Reckless, shunning evening prayers, instead she lifts a rainbow, now her eyes to another face, uncertain. Trembling, she pulls gently until that tautness, the knot breaks, slips into limpness, she holds a box. If either nun moves, she doesn't show it, and then a quiet rising moment like this, like a sad smile shared between 2 people who know something hard about each other and still love. One woman reaches out an elegant hand, with it offers trust, traces nimbus lines along the other's face.
Ricketts, as I knew her, and I taught together. I don't know if very many of you even realize that she spent 3 years of her life as a PE teacher and coach in a tiny little town of Cedar Rapids, Nebraska. I won't mention us supplying beer for her brother John at that time in his life. She had such a huge impact. No one will argue the fact that she's probably the funniest person who ever walked the earth. She was so much fun. We had a blast. She's certainly the most unique person that I ever knew. I was the music teacher. She was the PE teacher, and we lived together, moved out to Portland together, and then ended up going back our separate ways. But she had such an effect on the students that had the privilege of having her as a coach and a teacher. I could see it every day. But when she passed away, I let several of our former students in Cedar Rapids know about it. And this is a text that one of those guys sent. This is from her former student, Mike Balnick. He said, "My sister Susie and I just watched this." It was the She Wears Cufflinks video. He said, "Ricketts was her volleyball coach. You probably don't remember, but I would hang out with you and Ricketts, and I got your jokes and puns, and you seem to get mine, and you probably have no idea what a great memory that is for me. I got called a fag in Cedar Rapids long before I even knew myself. You and Ricketts helped me hold on through my senior year more than you could ever know. The 2 of you made me feel safe, and made me feel funny, and made me feel seen." Anyway, this video made me kind of emotional because it's the first time I've seen and heard her in over 40 years. She obviously had a similar experience growing up in St. Paul and teaching in Cedar Rapids. I think I'm probably as heartbroken as you are that she is gone, and I would like to see you at least one more time before it's not an option. Cool? That's it.
Hi, my name is Angela, and the only reason that I forced myself to come up here and be uncomfortable is to bear witness to a phase in Ann's life before California, which was that we both came from, I'm from Minneapolis and I moved out here. Ann came before I did, and we used to live across the street from one another, and I used to go over to her house almost every day and eat with her, and she would read poetry. But it's strange to be up here because I always felt like Ann's life here in California was something different. Or I had an insular relationship with her that only took place at Rainbow, which is where I used to see her if I was lucky every week. And I think Ann passing is a reminder to me. It happens every time someone passes, that every person in your life that goes away is, you see how foundational they have been in your life. And for me, the foundational element of Ann was that she was actually my kind of a Minneapolis lifeline for the life I left behind and part of the life that she left behind that I got to revisit every time that I went to Rainbow. But anyway, the main reason is just to bear witness to her pre-California years in Minneapolis, where she was not as vibrant, but I guess coming up to the task of what she would do here. That's it.
Hi, my name is Shion, and I work at Rainbow, and I've worked there for 20 some odd years, and also worked at Rainbow for 20 some odd years. There's so much, I think of a lot of things to say about Ann, but what I wanted to say was I didn't know that we were born the same year. I didn't know that she was a poet, and I love to write poetry. And it's just amazing about how much you don't know about someone when you've worked in the same job for over 20 years. I remember when we found out about her passing, the coworker just broke down and cried in my arms. The store wasn't open yet, but he just cried and cried and cried in my arms. He had a date to have a lunch date with her in the near future. He's here today. One thing I appreciate about Ann is that she always spoke her mind. You know, I knew what she was thinking. I didn't have to worry as a coworker. She would tell me, you know, if she didn't like what I did or whatever, and that's good. You know, that's a good thing to do. There's a kind of a funny story I heard some years ago. Our alarm went off in the building overnight because we have an alarm. And Ann got there really early in the morning, I guess 3 a.m. to work, and the police came and immediately arrested Ann. But right away, you know, our workers explained that she works there, and they unhandcuffed her and everything. But I always thought that was kind of an interesting story, really. So I don't know much else I want to say is that we really miss her. And one of the things I got really choked up about after she passed is, well, for one thing, she spent her last week working with us, and you know, we because of COVID, we haven't been able to get our profit sharing for a couple of years, and we got a little bit this year, and she missed it by just a few days. And we post how much everyone gets, and I was just really upset about that too. And so we really miss her. Thank you.
Were the sort of, to me, like kind of queers at Rainbow, or gay and lesbian. I will use those words. And they were really welcoming. They would do dinners every now and then for all the other LGBT people at Rainbow. And I went to dinner and had dinner with them. And tragically, we also lost Boomer sometime in the last 2 years. And now to lose Ann, it's you know, it's harder to be at Rainbow, I think, without her being there. We always connected. I've always loved Butch Dykes, ever since I was a little faggot in Buffalo, New York. I always thought, oh my God, it's fabulous. And one of the last, literally, I think the last conversation I had with her was I was going to be sort of taking a leave from Rainbow, and I was going to be going traveling England, and then I was going to be going to Grand Rapids, Minnesota, to the Judy Garland Birth House Museum and House for her 100th birthday. And I told Anne this, just thinking, oh, you know, and she was like, oh, I love Judy Garland. And I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I had no idea. She's got to be the first dyke I met who loved Judy Garland. So that is the memory. And we actually said we've got to get together and do a listening session, but by the time I was back, she had passed. But again, she was such a warm and also really grounded and sensible person, which at Rainbow can sometimes be in short supply. So I always knew I could either veg with her or talk with her and get like a grounded, good sense of what's going on. So it's a real loss, but I'm so glad to have known her.
I don't like to get up and talk in front of people, but I feel compelled. Ann Rickertsen was a true friend. My name is Chris Adams. I'm the trucking manager at Veritable Vegetable, and Ann and I had a very intimate relationship regarding the helmet truck for Dykes and Bikes. Ann would text me, before we had text, I'm not sure exactly what year it was. Ann worked at Veritable in the warehouse, and there was one day out on the loading dock at the receiving desk, and she had a tank top on or whatever, and I saw her tattoo, let X equal X. And I was like, oh my God, I love Laurie Anderson. I've seen Laurie Anderson. Tell me, why do you have that tattoo? And we had this great conversation, and that was the beginning of my relationship with her. And I have to tell you something, and I hope, Mary, I'm not divulging. So Mary from Nebraska, the teacher that just spoke a few minutes ago, has a new tattoo on her left forearm, let X equal X. And to me, in my mind, Ann was just so clear in how she approached life. Just let it be what it is. And anyway, I had a conversation with Kate. We're going to continue the Kate Ann Rickertsen Memorial helmet truck for Dykes and Bikes. As long as Veritable exists. So thank you. Thank you all for coming.
She never took vacations. She always worried about who needed help and how the department had to be held together, and that was her main concern. She was a hard worker. I wish she would have took more vacations. But she's truly going to be missed at Rainbow a lot. I'm going to miss her a lot, seeing her around. It hurts to have her gone.
To M looking east, I'm looking west. I am mindful often of where you are, alone on the edge of a vast, muddied current. And one of the few ways I can think to help is small and perhaps not helpful. There are sounds which chart a course across the river of despair. And the rosary was first fashioned from 165 dried and rolled up rose petals, that we might witness bowels ache their way into the coldening sky. Now behold an orchid, which has no natural enemy except weather, yet could be lost in the bed sheets of an unadorned woman. Beloved, lean in close and listen. There is no place without fear, only you, whose voice makes it beautiful. Dearest, what weakens us is finding no one to hold what we bring them. But if it stays your suffering, the cut you call loneliness, please know this. If I were there, I would take you in the arms you cannot put around yourself, your shadow upon my face, through light once sea-bound. And as the air escapes us, and at the red fringe of this sinking, a sandbar, where you walk on water, yes, I weep for it. Oh, but if there were here, for I long to gather you in my arms and tell it, the awe and awfulness of it, your history, a horizon before you, where you see the smallness of choices, see more than is given, which is what you give. You are beautiful. My darling, you are beautiful. And to let something scare you is to know something sturdy and why I believe you. You have lines cast out of it, silvery ropes that are your voice, all we who know you hear when we remember strength.
Ann and I, upstairs at Rainbow, our desks were next to each other. So a couple times a week, I would always look forward to Ann being like behind me, and we would do our work and chat and all that. And I'm a buyer at Rainbow, but I'm the cheese buyer, and I don't have to do it very often, but occasionally you really have to kind of rip into a vendor who's doing something wrong, you know. I don't like to do it, but you know, it's my job, I do it, and I think I do it too well, to be honest, so I try not to do it. But I feel like every single time that I would, you know, this is like, we're talking about like once a year, right? Once a year, I would rip into a vendor for something, and Ann would be behind me, and I'd get off the phone, and she'd just start laughing and be like, she's like, you did a good job, you know? And I always felt justified by that, because I don't like to be, you know, I don't like to be mean to people or whatever, but you know. But I think that the biggest thing for Ann, you know, God, I miss her so much. The biggest thing for me is that, you know, and I don't even think I fully realized this until after she passed, but she was one of the people at the store who I went to for moral judgment, you know? Like, if I was unsure of a decision I was making in the store, or if I felt like, you know, I'm kind of pushing for this, but some people don't like it, you know, like, I'd be like, what do you think? And just like, I counted on her so much for that. I think even in a way that I didn't realize until she was gone, you know, and I'm just gonna miss that so much. You know, she's not that much older than me, but she was an elder, but a peer at the same time. And it was just, I really counted on her for support. And I think a lot of people here did. And I just wanted to mention that. So I think that's all I want to say. But, you know, God, you know, so many people here. It's so nice to see everybody and see everybody appreciating Ann. So that's it. Oh, and eat food. There's a lot of food over there.
Hey, Gordon, we want to thank you too for all your help in all the organization and everything. So thank you to Gordon, please.
Wow. Wow. I'm Rachel. I loved Ann, and Ann loved me better than I deserved. I'm just a mess right now, but I'm sorry she's not here to see this, because I don't think that she. Yeah. I thank you. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for loving Ann. Thank you for being loved by Ann. That's a little simple, but yeah, thanks.
I think we can all agree that we're all very sad we don't also have a mourning boa. My next memorial, I will have a grief boa with me.
I was trying to figure out whether to say something. I'm Kirsten from Rainbow. We have this thing at Rainbow where during we have it Spirit Week during near Halloween, where we have dress as your coworker. And last year, and we've changed it now. It used to be used for surprise people, but we realized that, getting consent is a good thing in most everything. So I went up to her and I said, Anne, can I dress up as you? And she was like, I'd be honored. And so I put my big overalls on and I don't know, it just felt like an honor to even try to put Anne on for a day. And I just feel like cats have not been mentioned in this memorial.
Yes.
And I felt like they needed to be. So that's something that I missed with Anne, is that we would just have little hellos about our cats. And there was one day where she had had a really hard day at work, and she told me she was getting this bag of popcorn that was a flavor that her cat didn't like, because she just was not in the mood to be able to fight with Dennis over the popcorn. And we didn't know each other that well, but we were hired maybe a month apart, and she was just always such a constant, and always, as other people have said, she just had this calm and this kindness and this huge heart, and her whole entire face radiated when she would smile. And it's such a huge loss. And I just thank her for everything that she's brought to the Rainbow community and to all the other communities. And one more cat lover is not here, but I'm so glad that Carolyn and Mike are taking care of Dennis, and that Amy was able to foster for a while too. So, meow.
Hello everyone, my name is Charles. And I just have one or two things to share today. I worked at Rainbow for 33 years. I retired in 2019. I used to look forward every morning coming to work because Anne was receiving. She usually got there before me. But Anne was probably one of the most kindest, compassionate human beings I've ever met in my life. There was a number of conversations that we had regarding Rainbow, regarding situations. She was always so kind and always listened to what I had to say and processed it and made me know that she cared. I was shopping at Rainbow probably 2 weeks before she passed on. And I had shopped at Rainbow a number of times before that, but I never saw Anne. She was either already off because she came in so early in the morning, or she was just off that day. But 2 weeks before she passed, I was standing at the cashier's station talking with another worker, and apparently she heard my voice, but didn't come to address me because I was having a conversation. That's Anne. And as I turned away, I saw her in the potato chip aisle, or whatever aisle she was working in. And I walked up, and she turned, and she said, "I knew I recognized that voice." And I'm saying that to say, I was supposed to shop at Rainbow that day because I got to see Anne. She will be missed by all of us, I'm sure. Gone too soon, but never forgotten. I will keep her spirit alive in my heart. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Vonda and I worked with Anne at Rainbow. I was there for about 19 years, and I'm glad Kirsten spoke about the cat, because we talked about our cats a lot. And actually, before she even got Dennis, I have a history of showing people whenever you go online and you see, oh, this kitty needs a home, I'd be like, what about this one or this one? I would do that all the time to all my friends. You need another one, or you need to have a cat, and oh my God, there's so many that need homes. And she would say, I'm not ready yet, Wanda, not yet, but keep showing them to me, keep showing me the pictures, because I really like to see them. So every time I would see a cute kitten needing a home or a cat, because it always shows up on my Facebook feed, because, you know, it knows what I like to look at. And I'd always show Ann, what about this one? And she just said, I like hearing about yours, but right now I'm good. But thank you, keep showing me. And then one day I came to work and she said, guess what? I said, what? I got a cat. And I was like, what? And she said she got the cat that had been there for a long time, and it was just the right cat. And I said, well, tell me all about it. And she's like, well, I can't tell you too much because he's just hiding right now, so I don't see him when I get home. And this went on for months, and I realized she is so patient, because she would tell me, I'm bringing him treats, and he won't come out yet, but I know he will. I know he will, you know. And this went on for a long time, and I thought, God, is this cat ever going to come out for her? Like, I didn't think it was possible, but after months, she said, you know what? He finally came out, and I got to pet him. And this is like after months. And I was so happy to hear that she and her cat were bonding, and her Dennis was starting to be really comfortable. And he's probably a very difficult cat for some people. They don't have patience for that, but she had just so much patience and love, and just knew that this cat had it in him, which he did. And I'm so glad he has a home. I was very worried about the cat as well, but whenever I visit Rainbow, she is number one person on top of my list to see, because we always talked about our animals, and she was just so kind, compassionate, loving, role model, Butch Dyke. So I just loved her so much, and I still will, and I always will. And I'm always going to think about her whenever I see anything beautiful, because that's just who she was. Thank you.
I knew her middle name, but we always knew Aunt Kathy. I feel like a poser right now because I am wearing her jacket. Very special. Everyone talks about her working all the time, and as family living in the Midwest, it's very far from San Francisco. We didn't see her very often, and probably until the last 5 years she made an effort to come back to Nebraska in the summers to see family. But I always remember explaining to my friends, because we have this picture, it's in the book, with her blue bike and her, she's the aunt with all these piercings in her ear, like this really long one, right? Like, just explaining her to my friends and people, it was just so cool, right? As a kid from, carburetor kid, right? As a kid from South Dakota, right? Like, there weren't people like her where I grew up, or they were, but they weren't visible. Like, you talk about that. And in the last 5 years, as the eldest single grandkid and the eldest single kid, we shared rooms because, there's just only so much room in the house or the hotel or whatever. And so I actually find that very special. We went to Germany. I got to spend all of, the night times with her, and that meant just yakking, right? You were just up. The last time we were home in last summer, I had a flight really early, and all of a sudden, be like, oh, it's midnight. She's like, you probably should go to bed. It's late, and doze off. And then all of a sudden, it's another hour, and it probably was 3 a.m. before we went to bed. I have no idea what we talked about, but we talked about just life. I got to see her, I got to have that time with her, and I know we were all looking forward to seeing her this summer in July. I wasn't going to be there, but I know that everyone was really looking forward to that, and it's hard. But just seeing this, I was really excited to come to San Francisco. My sister and I had always talked about coming out here and seeing her life and her places and things. And so being out here and seeing that was really special. My sister can't be here. She just started a new job. Thank you.
I know she's crying and I'm being really mean right now. But can you show the inside of this was Anne's really jacket, especially
cats.
All her
Yes,
cats and Max the dog.
And other very important.
Packers.
I don't know that I can actually do this. I had a few different relationships with Anne. We were both receivers for a long time. Elizabeth and I got really close really early in Anne's career at Rainbow, and so I got to know her really well. I love her poetry, and we have this interesting relationship as receivers because everybody knows that Anne is like a total badass at work, and so she set the bar very, very high, and you have to meet that bar, and I like to think I did sometimes. But then we were also Green Bay Packers fans together, and so she was part of our kind of like San Francisco, East Bay Packers group for years, and my son got to grow up around her watching games and whatnot. And then I got to be in the band with her for a while, for a few years, and that was really amazing because in that kind of scenario, for the first time for me, she was so humble when she played guitar. She was very nervous. She didn't think she was very good, and she totally was. But we always had these relationships where there was, I mean, we talked all the time, but there was always kind of this reason to not talk. We're watching a football game, we're breaking down pallets, we're building pallets, all that kind of stuff. But somehow during the whole time, you just felt like you were silently being mentored by this person who had so much wisdom and so much heart. And just always made me feel so comfortable and always felt like I was in the right place with her.
I'm not good up in front of a lot of people, but I'm being moved. I had the good fortune of working with Anne at Veritable and at Rainbow, and these memories are all coming back to me. Being a young 20-year-old, walking into Veritable, and there's the the Veritable family is here, and that was such a time in my life, and Anne was there. She was so extraordinary, as were the people that I met there, and it was such a she was okay. I feel like she was a philosopher, someone who, when you talk to her, there was something really important happening, and that comes through in her poetry, and it just came through in being her friend, and I kind of think it might be my fault that Anne worked at Rainbow too, because then she would ask me, because I was there, I was working at Rainbow, and she'd be like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm thinking about maybe working at Rainbow," and I was like, "Well, there's really good things about Rainbow," and I just want to. It's amazing to see all of the people I work at Rainbow with too, because that's they're my family. I feel like, even though I haven't seen a lot of these people in years, like, such an important community. I'm so nervous. And to hear about Anne's experience, like from people who worked with her at Rainbow, and to hear how important it was, that her importance, because as a human, she understood community and giving of herself, and led by that incredible example of just being such a good human. And it's so wonderful that we're all here, because
this is a reflection of what a good, beautiful human Anne was, and I'm so happy to be here. So thank you.
I'll try to be quick. I knew Anne from Rainbow. I met Anne at Rainbow. And yet, when I came to San Francisco as a child of two queer parents, there was a feeling of coming home and a feeling of ease that I didn't have to explain who I was or what mattered to me in the world. And the same thing when I came to Rainbow. I joined a community of people who understood that we didn't want anyone to be an authority, but we wanted to work out our problems as best we could as human beings together. And when I met Anne, there was again that feeling of coming home with someone that I'd never met before. And we watched Packers games together, and she was a presence for my son-in-law, and or stepson, I'm sorry, and she held my newborn baby, and I'm so grateful for the moments that she was in my life. And every time we spoke, we said we should spend more time together. And she's got a huge spot in my heart for as little time we actually spent. There's a lot of real estate that she's taking up, and I'm grateful for it. And thank you all for sharing your stories. It just really helps to know that we're all here with each other in our love for Anne.
Hello everyone, my name's Ted, and I've worked with Anne in the package department for about 14 years. Anne is definitely a beautiful person, but only that beauty is contrasted by her bitterness. Just wanted to give a little bit of contrast. I would see her before we opened. I'd come into the aisles, and we would talk everything what was wrong with the world, what was wrong at our jobs, what was wrong with our lives. There was never really a solution. We would talk about solutions. We would talk about like, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, but never really a solution. She would, whenever I come up to her in the aisle, she would always say, "I have nothing great to say to you, Ted. I have nothing good to say." But I was always tell her, Anne, you may be a whiner at times, you may complain a lot, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So Anne, wherever you are, make that reservation for brunch.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say anything. I think that I was afraid to come today because this makes it real. And it means that our friend is gone, and I think I've been trying really hard to not believe that. Anne and I were rainbow besties, and she, I can honestly say, is probably one of the only people I can think of who really knows who I am. And that was a rare gift that she gave me, because I'm a really hard person to get to know. And, we worked together, and she just penetrated all my bullshit and really saw me and brought out the best of me. And because of that, there was at some point I got this crazy idea that I needed to leave Rainbow to become a death investigator. And everyone else thought I was crazy. And Anne was like, "That's perfect." She's like, "It totally makes sense. And who better to be there for people on their worst day?" And she supported me through, it took a very long time, and I worked in a lot of jobs that didn't fit right, and about 5 months ago I was like, Anne, I really want to come back to San Francisco. I feel like I need to be serving my community of the people I love, all of you. And she fought with me. She wrote me letters. She talked to people in the county. And she's one of the driving forces that got me hired back here. And I think it was all just very meant to be, because I was also one of the people who got to take care of her. Which was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But I can truly say, when I saw Anne at my office, she looked immaculate. And she was peaceful, and she was beautiful, and she was poetry. She was stunning as she was. And I brought her flowers every day. And I read her poetry every day. And I played her favorite music. I played her X equals X until her body wasn't there anymore. But I can truly say that Anne is at peace. And Anne knows how much she's loved. And I'm very honored to have lived this path to be able to be that person for her. And I just wanted you all to know that like, Anne is loved to a lot of us, and she changed a lot of us, and she sees all of us now. And I feel her. I saw a butterfly flying around earlier, and I was like, Anne, she's here. It's just, this is amazing, and I'm really glad this happened, and I love you all.
I just want to say super quick that as Denise and I were going through Anne's apartment, we found all the paperwork for your transfer to medical examiner, and we were like, what is this? Someone went from rainbow to medical examiner? So I just want you to know, she kept all of it. It meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to her. It just,
I too noticed the butterfly. Anne, I really miss you. I know you are here with us in all our hearts. And this is a wonderful celebration of you, your life, and our love. Thank you.
I want to talk about sandwiches. This is something that Anne and I love deeply. A good sandwich, a good cup of coffee, and then we can yak. Okay? I'm going to out myself and out Anne in a crazy way. One time Anne told me, listen, because we would bring each other food, or we'd go to the taco truck, or, we'd make it work, because we needed sustenance, and we needed just some camaraderie, even if it was just sitting for 10 minutes on a milk crate, talking, yakking. And so one day she said, listen, I brought a sandwich in today that I bought at Walgreens. It's ham and it's cheese. And it's in one of those little containers with the wrap on it. I said, oh, much like the tuna sandwich I often buy at 7-Eleven. Which sometimes we would also share. And then I got to share part of my life with her. When I worked at a vending machine company, the Canteen vending machine company, I actually made those sandwiches that were sold in the vending machines. So we shared, Anne was so important to me in so many ways. We had just a love of so many things in common. We were very nostalgic together. Like, we both loved diner waitresses and how they had that amazing, like, whipped potato hair. You know, we would just be able to, you know, we were very similar in age, and sometimes we felt really old at Rainbow, right? But we also, I don't know, we were just friends, and it was just easy. When I first met her, I worked at Veritable for a summer, and I realized in that summer, I am not tough.
Yes.
Listen, I cannot do this. But one of the things that I did, I was fortunate enough to meet Anne and Lisa Thornton and some other really good folks. So when Anne came to Rainbow, it was I was so excited. You know, she's such a badass. And she just really brought so much joy and just fun for me. Like, we could just say ridiculous things to each other, and we knew what it meant, you know. And it's not going to be a day that she's not loved. So, thank you.
When she turned 50, she said she was, at 50, you get to celebrate for a month. So, so I was like, well, let me take you out for drinks. And that started a almost yearly tradition of birthday drinks around, not on her, but around her birthday with Anne. Go out to Vesuvio's, out to the wild side, and had those ranging conversations, and what Ted was saying kind of reminded me that they were often a little dark. I remember in the cab, at one of those, we were talking about politics and the pro-life meme of the miracle of life. And we're like, yeah, at 1 every 3/4 of a second in this world these days, one could argue it's a cheap miracle. And that actually, the rarer, just as essential flip side to that is death, that only happens every 2.25, lagging far behind. And came up with the term, the unwanted miracle of death. And I remember catching the eye of the taxi driver, looking back at us in the back seat, kind of go like, what the? But those were the sort of conversations that we would have, and that I had with precious few other people in this world. The kind of conversations that a person needs to have with people, and there aren't that many that we get to do that with. Anne was one, and I would make it a point. We moved out of San Francisco a number of years back, and a couple of times, I'd have a day of time to have coffee with one good friend, and of course it's Anne. When I started riding a motorcycle, I could relate to her. There's this, I ride a Honda, Anne was riding a Harley, and there's so much attitude that comes with a Harley, and accessories and bandanas, and she wasn't about that. She just had a bike that she loved and loved to ride. And we bonded. She was, as a fledgling biker, she was kind of a role model for me. And yeah, shocked, surprised, miss her terribly.
That Anne knew David Carradine.
Not my favorite public speaking, but I feel like for Anne, it's easy. Anne was easy and complicated. And I met Anne in 1993 when I started working at Veritable with the Veritable family. And it was, meeting Anne was at a time when I was first even realizing that I was coming out. And Anne was just like a warm, soft, welcoming blanket of love and acceptance and equanimity. And one of the most incredible humans I think I've met. And she's timeless and effortless and was always so easy to be with. And you just felt so welcomed and loved around Anne. And I miss her dearly. I recently sold my motorcycle and moved out of California. And I reached out to Anne because I was so excited about selling my bike. She was kind of one of the people who helped me buy it 20, 30 years ago. And I knew that she would understand the importance of releasing it and letting it go. And I didn't hear from her, and that's okay. That was Anne. We went in and out and in and out, and there was a lot of spaciousness in between. And I always felt her. And I've always loved her and appreciated her. And it's absolutely so beautiful to hear all of your stories and to really understand and feel in my body how much Anne impacted everyone that she met and will continue to impact people. And thank you for taking care of Anne's body and Anne and her soul. I heard that weeks ago, and it brought me a lot of peace to know that someone who loved and cared for Anne so deeply was there for her and loving her and reading her poetry. I couldn't ask for anything more. So thank you. And thank all of you. It's really special to know that there's all this love for Anne, and it just ripples. So, thank you. Thank you, Anne. Love you.
I've been requested to make a little comment. Some of you may know I have the eraser. Nobody in the family's going to fight me over it. Nobody else rides motorcycles. I know my dad was concerned. You can take that, and it's like, well, I'm not leaving the damn thing in San Francisco to get stolen or vandalized. It was coming home with me. So, and it was a good ride. It was 1,600 miles back to Henry, North Dakota from San Francisco. Going on a bike I'd ridden once before when we were out here in 2019. I went down and looked at it. It appeared to be in good condition. I did actually find receipts. She had a bunch of work done to it a year ago, but, got on it. And strangely, she was a tad bit shorter than me. But I was very comfortable on that bike. If she still would have had Piglet, I would have been done at Oakland. Because I couldn't stand that Harley. It was just way too small. It vibrated too much. It's just, I didn't like that bike. She loved it. It was her. But the Goozy, it was a healing experience. I called it the KM Memorial Ride because, with a single bike, which I thought was fitting. My wife falling behind. And it was healing. And it went well. We went through. I was worried about going through the desert, and I'm going through thunderstorms and a bunch of rain. My wife was more concerned than me, so it's rain, it's wind. I'm from the high plains. It's wind, which happens daily. But the Goozy made it home to North Dakota in mostly good condition. It's Italian. It had to have some issues, like the side stand. A side stand that has an extremely odd bolt configuration that you can't get to without taking the exhaust off. Ended up eventually bunging the kickstand up because my wife we had radios to communicate. She kept going, your kickstand's coming down again. I'm really worried you're going to crash in that thing. But it was a healing ride. I bonded with the bike. It's joined the stable of the 4 other bikes in the garage. And I didn't know if I'd actually keep that thing. But I can't get rid of it now. But it was so wonderful to ride that home and know that was a big part of her life. It was a big part of our lives together. Like I said, I bought her first motorcycle, my first motorcycle. She moved to Minneapolis. She had no money. and she sold pretty much everything to move there. Looking through her Social Security statements, I'm going, dang, I was making more as a grad research assistant than she was working at the warehouse in Minneapolis. So, and it was special. That's what got me into bikes. Much to my dad's disconcern, he's still mad. Even coming out here, he's like, "You're not riding out, are you?" It's like, "Yeah, I am." Same way with the Motor Guzzi. Well, you're not riding at home. And it's like, and I told Mom, tell him it's $5,000 to get a truck or a trailer. So we're riding it. So. You know, it was just a big part of it. But like you said, it was a really healing ride. I hope those of you who followed along appreciated it, and that, you know, it was special. And part of it was too, as we went through all our stuff, she had all this gear that she had planned to take trips, and saddlebags and tail bags. She bought all this stuff because you guys were going to go take trips and come out and visit us in North Dakota and visit the states you hadn't been to yet. And it's just, Diana said at the beginning, don't wait too long to retire. It's, you know, you have the money, do it. She did have the money. It's, you know, it certainly changed even my outlook on it a little bit to go ahead and do those things. You know, I mean, she was devoted to what I know. And part of that's growing up on that farmer in Nebraska. You got to get the work done. I'm the same way. My wife will tell you, you know, as I'm working weekends out harvesting research plots and those things, that, you know, sometimes you let life go by us when work can say. That's why when this came on, it's like, no, I'm taking off from work to do this. It's too important. I'm not checking my work email until I get back. This is way more important. So, and the other thing, like I said, we need to mention cats because they're important, right? We have actually a family group chat called the Cat Hell because we have a couple. One especially really special, intelligent cats. And then we had this family text. Well, while in Germany, Cassie was showing her the text. So it became a family text involving also Anne. And of course, we talk about Dennis. And all of a sudden, once she mentioned something about Dennis. And we're like, Dennis? Who's Dennis? Who's Dennis? We don't know anything about Dennis. You didn't tell us about Dennis. And then, of course, she finally sent a picture. And you talked about her not wanting to come out. In 2019, when we came to visit, we went to her place. And I caught just a glimpse of Dennis before he was kind of coming out of the closet. And I told Jennifer, just, no, don't turn fast. But look, and she did. She just turned. And of course, Dennis was like, boom, he's in the closet. And she did much. But the cats were very important. When, you know, back in the old days of the landline, we'd call. She never answered the damn phone. Never answered the phone. So you leave a message. We leave a message for Carl. You know, because we knew Carl was there. You know, we'll talk to Carl. But the cats, you know, and an occasional dog were an important part of her life. You know, she wasn't always the dapper dresser she became. That took progress. So she finally figured out the hair, thank God. I always gave her a hard time about her wedding pictures. She actually apologized for how her hair looked at the wedding. So I think Mary will agree. We went through some phases before we got there on the hair. But I remember when I first got to Minneapolis and she finally had shaved her head. And it's like, that's perfect. It was for a while. She kept the tail on there. She says, I don't want to look like I'm on chemotherapy. And then she finally did that off. And it's like, no, you look so much better with it all shaved off. And, you know, and she really became her own. No matter how she dressed, whether she's in her bibs or in a suit, she actually took a lot of thought into how she looked. It really was. So, but anyway, once again, it's just here to see all of you. This is so healing for me. Thank you so much.
To be completely fair, that rat tail was a style for a while. I'm not saying it was a good style.
It was the 80s.
It was a style in the 80s. I want to give her a little. I feel like from heaven, she's like, "Hey."
Well, I know she is. But,
I'm not the only one with that. You had that look of like me. Okay, so I think what we will do now is. I do have some Buck Wild, the band that Anne played in, on her iPod. So I think we'll play some Buck Wild. And we'll do some mingling before we need to turn El Rio back to El Rio.